Charges against the former head of the Hawks, Anwar Dramat, and Gauteng Hawks head, Shadrack Sibiya. State Advocate George Baloyi says the charges were provisionally withdrawn based on the representations they have made to the state. The charges against the third accused, Captain Lesley Maluleka, were, however, not withdrawn, and the case will continue against him. He's now facing 16 charges of kidnapping, contravention of the Immigration Act, and defeating the ends of justice. The charges relate to the repatriation of a Zimbabwean national in 2010. The case has been postponed to next month to allow Maluleka to also make representations why he should not be prosecuted. Let's go to Patricia Fasahi for more on the story. Patricia, a very good morning to you. What an outcome.
Yes, certainly. But what an outcome that was expected, one would say, if you take into consideration that the NPA had already indicated their intention to, of course, provisionally withdraw the charges against the two accused, and that is the former Hawks boss, Anwar Dramat, and, of course, the former Gauteng Hawks head, and that is General Shadrack Sibiya. So we came here with the intention that that would be the outcome. And now we have to remember that was not a decision that was taken by the judge, and he made it very clear here that it is the NPA who provisionally dropped the charges. So let's speak to IPID head. You would know that IPID was also investigating this matter, and they also cleared the accused of the charges that they were facing. I'm now joined by IPID spokesperson Moses Dlamini. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I think IPID came here with the expectation, just like the media, that this would be the outcome.
Indeed. Remember that in 2015, we made the recommendations that only Colonel Maluleka should be charged. There was no evidence against Generals Sibiya and Generals Dramat. However, the minister had an interest in this case, and General Mhlameza also had an interest in this case, and therefore there was interference and an insistence to proceed with the investigation. But also, the NPA had a role to play in this. There was no evidence against these two generals. However, the NPA proceeded to charge them purely because of political reasons.
And interesting, so one would perhaps also link this to the broader issue, the ongoing phenomenon of perhaps state capture in the country, that even the crime intelligence sector, the police sector, was also infiltrated through state capture.
Well, the point is this case was totally fabricated by crime intelligence under the leadership of General Mhluli. And General Mhlameza basically carried the can for General Mhluli and make sure that this case continues the way it has. As early as 2015, as IPID, we found that there was no evidence against these people. However, they were persecuted basically by the law.
It's a very long-standing matter. I mean, dating back to 2010, although the formal charges were brought in 2016. How would you say has this impacted the image of the police? I mean, it's a very controversial matter, very wide reported. We've heard so many murky and questionable detail coming out from this whole Zimbabwe illegal rendition case. In your opinion, as IPID, you've done the investigations. You had to ultimately scrutinize your own members. How has it impacted the image, the credibility, the integrity of the police?
Well, these are the things that damage the criminal justice system. Of course, IPID was negatively affected in the sense that people in IPID were actually hounded out of IPID to
Good day, good morning. Sanbonani, it's been a while since we actually met up here as Mzansi for sure.
So if you want to build an app and have
with our wishes to continue to analyze information, you must remember, guys, that As for me, Unjabulo from Zanzibar for sure is that we will always have nothing to say if there's no data. We work with data. So the data allows us to join the dots. So now, if at any point in time there is a lot of information that is being reported on, it's not helping us to join the dots. You will not hear from us as News for Sure that will be broadcasting and trying to analyze things, because we realize that certain analyses were dependent on other information that needed to be mentioned. But then now you will see in today's video clip that I've actually played for you guys. So this video, it's entirely meant to take you back in time where NPA was busy in a case where they were prosecuting, I always say persecuting, General Sibiya as well as General Dramat, basically. Now, what is quite interesting that we're hearing there is that Moses Lamin, the spokesperson for IPID at the time, he says that the strange thing is that NPA had a role to play in trying to force this case in. But let's continue. What does Sibiya say?
IPID spokesperson Moses Dlamini. So let's get a reaction from the former, or rather suspended Gauteng head, and that is General Shadrack Sibiya, fired. We have to be politically correct, of course. Fired, suspended. Actually, it's such a complicated matter that I think has confused a whole lot of us in terms of what is really happening here. Now that the charges have formally been provisionally withdrawn against you, what does that mean for you? You've been fighting a very, very difficult fight.
All I can say is that I'm disappointed. I can't say I'm happy. I'm not happy because from the onset we were just based on manufactured evidence. This is a bogus case, and I hoped that the case was going to be permanently withdrawn against us. But if it's provisional, which means it's still hanging.
From your legal side, your legal representatives, they must have sat with you, gave you more detail. And as I said, most of us came here with the understanding that that's exactly what's going to happen. The charges would be provisionally withdrawn. What advice did they give you? What is really happening? What is still hanging in the balance?
What is still hanging in the balance is the fact that now our matter has been withdrawn pending accused number one, which is Captain Maluleka's case. But remember, we were not charged based on what Captain Maluleka has said. We were charged based on our own independent evidence against us. Now, if we were charged based on the evidence the state has against us, why now withdraw it? Okay, we did make representations, but the evidence that was used to charge us is still there. Why provisionally withdraw? If there's no case against us, then say so and withdraw the matter permanently. Now, the judge said we are not acquitted, which means the state can decide at any time to reinstate the matter. So, which means we still have a cloud hanging over our head.
What does that say about the NPA? Is there something that maybe we're not understanding, that is not communicated openly and transparently? What is really happening behind the scenes? We have to ask. The NPA has been linked to a whole lot of questionable activity over the years.
Well, I can tell you is that the prosecutor is sitting with false statements that were made against us. The prosecutor is aware that there is no case against us. And the prosecutor is also aware of those who made false statements against us. But as to the reason why it chooses to just be playing these tricks, I'm not sure.
Are you going to find out? Is there any way to get at the bottom here, to get, behind this whole game that is playing? Why are you not formally acquitted? Especially if you take into consideration that the whole case is formulated on false statements against you.
Well, personally, I had to take advice from my legal team, but I personally didn't want to make any representation because I wanted this matter to be heard, because I know for a fact that there is no evidence against me, and the fact that there is no statement that is really implicating me other than the false statement that were made against me, and there is clear evidence as to the fact that these are manufactured evidence. This is manufactured evidence.
Just remind the public again, where does this all start? Why were you falsely accused? Who was against you? Who was trying to fabricate what against you or implicate you wrongly in what? How does this all start? Because as I said earlier, very...
Wow. 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 Did we just, if you just heard that, General Sibiya there, let me just give you the background, guys. Is this Zimbabwe's rendition? What is important about it is that Sibiya and Dramat, they were being persecuted. But what is interesting is that whenever crime intelligence or the police wants the fixer, the prosecutor that will do things for them, that will work with false statement, that will fabricate things and sneak the thing in court, who is a point of reference? It's Advocate Baloyi. It is Advocate Baloyi. I'm playing that so that I can take you now to the current process now. Within the Senzo Meyiwa case, we have a Baba Zungu senior who constantly tell Baloyi that you guys have been doing this criminal act against my name. You've been naming myself in this court. I never wrote any statement. I don't know anything about the death of Senzo Meyiwa. But what I want you guys as News for Sure now, that I want us to understand is that General Sibiya says, I don't want this case to be provisionally withdrawn. I want it to be heard so that you guys will be exposed. Now, we all know that Sibiya and them went on and pushed the case. The charges to be reinstated and wanted the case to be heard. They were then formally acquitted. Now, when they were acquitted, Sibiya had the legal recourse against Baloyi and against the NPA. Now, why now in South Africa we expected to believe that Baloyi it's beyond approach? Baloyi is just this ethical prosecutor. Let me just tell you, Rat. Should anything even happen to me now, I'm okay with everything. I am okay. I know that some people are gathering around in places to discuss me. I'm just a South African citizen that just wants the truth. Now, let's deal with this matter beforehand. Raja, stand back. Baloyi is not ethical. Baloyi is the one that went on and persecute General Sibiya. Yes, don't worry about General Sibiya's now his wars that people actually have against him. But he's always been a guy that people didn't like. So I'm not really defending him on the current news that are currently happening. No, but I'm talking about the fact. I'm talking about the war that he fought on his own and he won against the state. But then now, why are we expected to ignore that now? Because now, us as public, we're seeing that another member of the public, which is the Meyiwa family, is being denied justice by who? By the NPA. So it means now NPA is playing the same dirty tricks that they played on Sibiya and them, where they work with the police and the crime intelligence to fabricate false statements about South African citizens so that they can wrongly prosecute them before the court. And you heard that report. That report said the judge made it clear that I did not go to the merit of the matter. It is NPA that went back and withdraw this. You had the spokesperson from IPID when he went on and tells us and says NPA was politically motivated. They had an ulterior motive to persecute Sibiya and Dramat. They were told that there was no evidence around that. But what stands still is that Sibiya fought his fight on his own against the NPA. Now, why these minions from TikTok that are going on and say, Unjabulo this, Unjabulo that? You know what? People, you can call me all the bloody names that you want to call me with. Let me tell you what. I do not care. You understand? I do not care. All I'm saying is that the truth is that it's what we want. I'm not going to sit quiet. I've sat down many years ago, but I'm not going to keep quiet now when I see the injustices happening in front of us every day in the TV. No, I can't. I can't. At least if I can't do it for myself, let me do it for the future kids that are coming. Let them know that if we have to be killed for telling the truth, let it be so. If we had to be dealt with, we had to be told. Guys, I could not even stand before you because I have to wear the glasses on. And I've been struggling with eye infection, guys. You can see my eyes are like this. Yes, the story says I was using the eye drops, a Schedule 4 eye drops that was given to me. So that eye infection didn't finish, didn't clear up. So I went back to the doctor basically to say, what you're giving me, this thing has not worked. So fast forward. So when I get to the same pharmacy, because I could only get this script to this particular pharmacy. So now, strange, they gave me all the medication that I wanted, but these eye drops, it says, no, we don't have it. But wait a minute, we've already arranged another branch for you to go and collect them. I tell you what, guys, I went there and collected that script from that other branch. I don't know what happened, but my eyes just went worse. Because sometimes God works in miracles. Didn't know, the previous supply that I actually had. Then I found it because I saw that these two things are the same. So unfortunately, I may have misplaced or I may have swapped it. So I continue using, but I was using now not the new one, the old one. Then my eyes started clearing up. Now, not being away in one of the very people that actually cares about the truth, that they work in this sensitive environment. We had a discussion. Then he's telling me, says, you know what, my brother, even be worried where if you do have medications that you're taking, he mentioned at least 3 pharmacies. And one of the pharmacies was one of those. It says, you know what, be careful because these people can follow you up and do something like they've done. I stopped him. I said, you know what, you don't know what I'm going to tell you. I just told him what I told him. And do you guys remember the story of Ngo again? It all started with the eye drops. So, good people, I'm saying that I do appreciate your support. I do appreciate your consent. But then also, I also need to warn people who are going on TikTok. I've heard yesterday that there are people that are going on to endangering my life, to speak about myself, to say all the horrible things that they're saying about myself. Well, I'm honored that I found time to be in your spaces, guys. Such a humble and a nobody like me that could be discussed by very fancy people driving about my G-Wagon, sitting on the lives that had more than 1,000 people, huge followings. Let me tell you something. Then an official, I had respect for you guys, but if you allow these people to continue talking nonsense about me, I'm warning you guys. It's a stern warning. Anyway, let's go on. Now, what I wanted us to talk about, I wanted us to talk about what is the legal remedy now on the Senzo Meyiwa case, now that we know Baba Zungu is dismissing that is not responsible for the statement, and we are aware that the judge wants to proceed with the case. So now, Baloyi did this thing before, where they had to go on an NPA, or the defense needs to make representation directly to the DPP and tell them that, you know what, there is no way that we can continue with this matter because the prosecutor there is found wanting. The prosecutor there is not is violating the NPA Act. Now, I'm not a legal person, but if I were to compare the Senzo Meyiwa case and compare it to the case of General Sibiya and Dramat, I'm convinced that there's a very strong reason that the NPA should withdraw the case against the 5 accused persons, because clearly this case has been fabricated by Gininda and his team. And the 5 accused persons were far away from the crime scene. Now, as South Africans, every time when a person comes and tell you the truth, those person gets to be persecuted. Now, do you have to have money for you to actually to get law or to get justice in this country? No. If we are still available, we have resources that we have, we can talk. I can tell you now, News for Sure followers, that I have not taken any money from anybody. So nobody controls me. So for the people who have taken money, now they can't balance themselves, because you can't be a host of any show and say Mkhwanazi is right, and then but on the other side and saying the state and say Gininda is right. You see, you can't say that, because from Mkhwanazi's side, Mkhwanazi is saying both a National Cold Case Unit wanted to interfere with his investigation. He says the forensic lab wanted to interfere with his investigation. But then now on the other side, when it comes to Senzo Meyiwa and the Meyiwa family, you must accept that Gininda is an ethical guy who Zungu has said that he fabricated the statement, and he also kidnapped him. And he also beat up, it was in the part of beating up the 2 people, basically. He participated in that. He was with people when these people were beaten up to extort those illegal confessions. Now, how that can be true? How then can we say the forensic lab did the great job, where else you have Mangena that did not have proper documentation for the information? So now you see the rubbish that we sit with. So now you can question me that how uneducated I am, but at least I've got the mind that can see the logic. So I don't have time to be bashing you guys. The first time I'm mentioning you now publicly, and I'm moving away from you guys. But if you want to follow me, you guys can follow me at your own risk, basically. So whoever will go on and talk nonsense, because now there's certain South Africans, some of us that are gullible, some of us that are hypocrites, some of us that because a person is from KZN, you can just penalize him for whatever. You can say the worst thing that you want to say. Because a person is from a small little town somewhere in Limpopo, you can just penalize him because he doesn't know anybody. Because somebody is from down the river somewhere in the Eastern Cape, you can just say whatever that you want to know because there's nobody. Let me tell you, those days are over. This is the new South Africa. This is a South Africa now that has allowed us to have this YouTube platform where we can use our freedom of expression. We are expressing ourselves. We are going to constantly fight for the justice. If it means that we fight for our lives as well, we will do so. So, South Africans, is News for Sure. We are back. This was just an introduction in terms of how we're going to be joining the dot. I'm going to do a next videos on reactions on the vehicles and join all the things so that you can see that indeed now it's the time for NPA to withdraw the cases. Now it's the time for NPA to stop their data tricks. Shadrack Sibiya warned them. Now, I'm saying to you guys that if that man fought against Baloyi, we as the public, we must not give up. We must fight against Baloyi. If some people were not powerful enough to tackle Rat while he was still playing soccer, as a public, we know his weakness. His weakness is he wears glasses. So we must tackle him from the other side. Do you understand? So that is why that as a public, we must not allow peace in that court. We must constantly pull out the things. So good people, we are aware that some people are busy with things, but I can tell you, there's been a lot of series of attempts in my life. Soon I will be opening up a case with the police, basically, but I'm also trying to do my own investigation so that when I get to the police, I also I submit correct information that will lead people to the correct places. The same information that I've used to actually assist the Meyiwa family and the 5 accused people, that we will fight for the justice. Defense lawyers, keep on fighting. You will be judged on the results. News for Sure people, I thank you so much for your support. I know I have not gone through in the detail of this presentation, but all I wanted to say is that NPA must stop with their nonsense. I thank you.